Welcome, welcome. We are in June's Coach Camp. Excited to have our some of our usual crew here, and also some new faces as well. Miriam, I think you were just featured on our social media in the last couple of days.
Oh, I
I think
haven't
we'll have to
noticed.
check. It
Noticed.
may be the test account that I get, but I will double check. I know I've
Oh,
seen a
okay.
feature of you, so awesome to have you with us today as well. Um, so this is the kind of um, open conversation for coaches. We use the CAMP acronym as a bit of structure held loosely. Um, and for many of our coaches, the other 3 weeks of the month, this is our coach mastermind. So fun. This is kind of our coaching hour, no matter what we're up to. So, all right, let's start with um, craft of coaching. Um, and I want to build on, if we're open to it, some of the themes that we've been talking about in our mastermind. The idea of being intentional and setting. Um, I guess it comes up in the context of setting boundaries, but really it's just being intentional with our time, in which mode we want to be in. And I want to, Chris, I know you said you don't want to talk much, but I think starting with, how you started with coaching in real life, and how that informed the way you communicated and sort of set boundaries about communication, and how you've carried that into your communication as you've expanded into more online and virtual coaching. Do you mind kicking us off?
No problem. When I first started personal training in the late 90s, I learned pretty quickly that whatever you know is of no use unless it's useful to the person you're standing in front of. So I learned pretty quickly that I didn't know how to coach someone until I knew how to coach them. And what I mean by that is until I get to know them and I have no idea how to coach them. And I've always kind of stood by that, because you can have a tendency to think, right, this is how I'm going to coach someone. And then you try to fit them into your coaching approach. And sometimes that will work, but a lot of times it won't. Where I like to see every client as a blank canvas. And therefore my coaching comes from the more I get to know them. And yes, I know what their goals are and so forth, but I'm not so rigid in thinking this is how I'm going to coach someone. And that's kind of formed my coaching over the years. Because a good example of that is I had a lady called Diane. She was in her 40s and she wanted to do bodybuilding. Start doing bodybuilding in her 40s. She's probably about 5'5". In American, it's probably 150 pounds, And I was thinking, oh, okay, what's a good goal? Let's go with that. And at the time, I wrote really good, detailed strength programs. I used to have a little machine where I'd punch the holes and put a binder on it and give a really,
Oh, there you go.
professional
Oh, I
looking
love it.
program.
Love it.
And I spent the weekend doing it on these new things called laptops, and printed it off, put it all together in a bound, booklet. And I gave it to a 12-page document. I was like, there you go, this program. She looked through it and goes, oh, this is great, Chris. Blah, blah. Next time I saw her, she had this little laminated card. I said, what's that? She said, well, this is your program. What you gave me it was just too much. So I put it down into a little laminated card so I could use it in the gym. And that made me think, I spent all weekend putting that together and making it look really pretty. And actually what I should have asked was, okay, how do you want me to
Mm,
deliver this to you?
mm.
And it would have saved me a whole weekend. And I'll just put it on a little card. So kind of I learned from that you have to really go in with a very open mind with coaching. and try to deliver it in a way that makes sense to them, even though it might be very simple for you or very basic. You as a coach, you just want to give, and sometimes you just got to hold back and go, tell me what you want. Oh, that's all you want. Okay. All right.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I want to
Yeah.
talk about the presence component of it, because I think for a lot of coaches, um, modern day coaches, and particularly on the Coach.me platform, it's either message based or it's perhaps virtual, or a phone call, much less person to person. But I really think some of the skills and tendencies that that are developed from coaches that first coached in person, I think some of those
Mm,
skills and gosh, what's the word? It's escaping me, but mindsets perhaps or approaches can, if we translate them into the virtual world, maybe they're not identical, but the principles are similar. That's the word I was looking for. The principles are similar. So talk about, I love kind of the stories you tell, about training and how that informs how you interact with
mm.
clients.
Well, that's the next thing. Moving from face-to-face clients to online clients, it is a different monster beast where I always try to get someone on a call first, even if it's the only call I ever have with them. And I've had clients who've been online clients for nearly 3 years now, and I've only had one call with them. But that first call was the most important because I got to know them and they got to know me and stuff like that. But if people who don't want to do a call, then to try to find out more about them by just messaging can be really hard because people aren't always great at putting into words
Mhm.
what they're like and who they are. So I've probably struggled with that side of it, but I've got better at it. And that's just through trying to decipher the very little bit of information you get into what that person is like. And it's something you've got to refine over time. It's not something you learn pretty quickly, or I don't. And so over time, I've been able to ask the right questions that give me the answers I'm looking for instead of having too many back and forths. Um, and yeah, but that's the big challenge of the ability to build rapport. So if you're talking about approaches and stuff like that, it's always been about building that rapport. I've always said if you get me on a call with someone, I can usually convert them. But if you ask me just to message them, it's a lot harder for me. So I'm
I
learning
like
that
that.
skill still to be able to build rapport by just through messaging.
I like that. I like that point of figuring out the right questions, Scott. And then I'm gonna ask Miriam. But when you get a client, particularly from the platform or particularly from a virtual a virtual connection, not somebody you met at an event or
Mhm.
something like that, have what's your how do you think about that building rapport, that onboarding? Because I think for many coaches, this is the start is the hardest part.
I think for all of us, it comes down to remembering. Chris kind of said it earlier. The idea of that, we have a bunch of tools in our toolbox, but we don't yet know which tools to use. So you're in diagnosis mode, you're in query mode, you're in question mode, whatever name you want to get, curiosity mode, and you really never get completely out of that, but you definitely start with even more. So even questions that sometimes seem like they don't have anything to do, you know, with what's going on, hey, how was your morning? Hey, what did you, and maybe you're coaching on something that's not about their morning routine, but just still asking them those questions and getting them to engage, and preferably open-ended questions, so it's not a yes no. Now, one challenge with chat based is people sometimes, there are some people that just write you one word answers. How'd your morning go? Okay. It's like, okay, that didn't help much. And that's where oftentimes having at least a call sometimes can help, to have that breakout. But even with just chat based, sometimes I just tell them, you know, hey, I'm trying to get to know you a little bit so I can figure out what tools to help you with. You know, the more you can give me, the more information you can give me in your answers, the better it is. You know, don't hesitate to write more, or send me a voice message, or you know, I've had people send me videos. I've had people send me voice
Oh, I like
clips.
that.
You know, whatever you can do. Again, that's tools in a toolbox. You know, if they're having trouble writing, okay, why are you having trouble writing? What would help? You know, so it's just being open to changing your modality to help them be more free with information. You know, I have that sitting on my desk every time. It
Oh,
says
I
ask
like
more
it.
questions,
I
you
like
know,
it.
because
I like
that's the idea of, I don't care how many questions I've asked, there's still another question to ask. So, and I think sometimes we, especially, we're so focused on, we have to provide them immediate value or else they're going to quit coaching, that we, a lot of times we want to dive into solution mode and we don't actually even know what the problem is yet. And that's what gets us in that mode, like Chris was saying, of, well, I've got a way that's worked for other people, so I'm going to give you that same way, and it's not the right way for them. You know, the card is a great example of that. You know, it was a simple question. He could have asked one simple question, he would have had the information he needed, but you don't do that because you're in a modality of, you're not curious. You haven't asked that one more question. And again, I don't care if you've coached 1 minute or 20 years. I think we all fall into that trap easy. And I think virtual makes it easier in a way because you don't have that immediacy of the question comes right after the, you know, a lot of times there's a delay, if that makes sense. You know, they've sent you a message and it's 3 hours later that you're answering them. And that delay, I think, can create friction with that back and forth.
So Miriam, how do you think about onboarding, or have you discovered any sort of
Well,
helpful insights on how you onboard a new client, or anything that you want to explore more about how you, when you start with clients?
well, I find it's totally true what Scott and Chris just said. It's much easier to, when you have a call with someone, to get to know the person and to be like right on point with what you tell them, how you guide them, versus asking questions, because you do have specific questions, but then a lot of people are limited in, they limit the information they give you. So you only get like bits of information here and there. And we always want to give, help as much as we can. And if we don't have all the info, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we can feel like a bit useless if it's just like to cheer up the person, like we want to create an added value. So yeah, so I find that, having like a first call is something that works well. And if we take the example in my situation, even people I know, friends that I coached, even when you know them and they're struggling with something and you try to help them and they do the exact same thing. I remember I had to take the phone and call them. I said, okay, that's it, like answer the question, like the answer like aside. So yeah, having a phone call is something good. I think maybe having like a little worksheet that you send them, like a little homework, maybe, um, could also help, because then they take time for it. It's not like
Hmm.
they're answering when they're on the way, they're distracted doing something else. So if you ask them like a couple of questions, or you give them a homework to do something, and then you following up like the weekly reviews does help to understand them better.
Love it. Love it. I'm hearing some great themes and some great tactics. So I think the thread that I heard. Oh, Chris, jump in.
Yeah, just saying with the homework side of things, I always start off with a starting questionnaire. So if someone's signed up for an exercise habit, then I always say, fill in my starting questionnaire. And I can usually tell kind of the longevity of a client, of if they fill it in, how quickly they fill it in, and how detailed it is. The ones that are really detailed, I know they really want to achieve this goal. They have a bigger desire to achieve it. But people who just quickly just tick, 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 it's like, okay. And it kind of sits you where the expectation is. So as Miriam was saying, is, you want to help, and if people are not responding the way you'd like and so forth, if you kind of know that from the start, you kind of get a feeling of how this person wants to engage or not.
That there might be a start before the start.
Yeah.
I remember coaching on like a morning routine. And then when you realize that the person is exhausted and didn't get enough sleep, so you can't really focus on the morning routine if you don't focus on the habit, the what comes before the morning routine. So I love the kind of blank slate, let every client be. What I'm hearing from everybody is don't project, right? Let every client be a real person, be a unique person, and be curious. Certainly we can be informed from our experiences with other folks, but to still keep that curiosity and openness to and I love the other theme that I heard, which I think is an evolution of just the complexity of life now, is also to give your clients permission to communicate with you in a way that's comfortable to them. So whether it's a questionnaire, whether it's recording an audio, whether it's writing out something long, whether it's recording a video, I love giving them permission to kind of answer back and share with you in whatever format they're comfortable in. I think that's a great point, and maybe an easy one that we can sometimes overlook. Even if I remember when I was coaching at my peak, I didn't have a lot of time for calls because I had a day job, if you will. And so coaching on the other side of that, the messaging part was really one of the inherent things that made coaching possible for me. But the idea of exchanging voice messages or exchanging videos can give you some of that realness and context, that you might otherwise miss. But so taking it and opening up, the possibilities of what we can do, those are fantastic. Well, thank y'all for sharing that. Those are some of the themes I'm hearing from folks that are in the thick of coaching. What are the themes that emerge? The A in camp is kind of awareness and stress management. And this seems to particularly rise when the world is at crisis, which I'm not sure it hasn't been for a while, but maybe the levels of crisis go from kind of hot to really hot. And when things go to really hot, I think as coaches we have, and we're not the only, I think every helping profession deals with this, of you've got your own feelings and intensity and impacts of what's going on in the world or in your personal life. And then you've got the showing up and being ready to serve and hold space for clients that are being, extra impacted by what's going on in the world. And so I want to put it out there. And if anybody's got stories or thoughts on how they're approaching, do you think about it differently when it gets hotter, so to speak, in the climate of, where your clients usually live, or just the world dynamics in general? Do you as coaches sense any difference when it gets thornier out there? No? Okay.
Well, I can go. I'm in the midst of crisis. And as a coach, I try to be proactive. So unfortunately, I live day by day, right? Because every day, just I wake up in the morning and I look at my schedule and say, okay, for example, I had 2 podcast episodes scheduled for today. And I just don't think I might do it, but I might not, because usually at that time of the day, there is a siren going off. And also, the room that I'm doing my podcast recording is our bomb shelter, and we unfolded the bed so we can sleep there, because we get to go there 2-3 times during the night, so there is no space basically. And I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna cancel it. So for me, just being proactive, and I just sent a message saying, hey, I don't think we're gonna record it today. And then with my clients, I'm trying to be proactive during the day. It's usually okay, but if it's over evening or yeah. So if you are the person in the more complex situation, and it doesn't matter whether it's war zone, which is for me, or your child, or other circumstances, just be proactive. I think communication is the key. Just send people a message as much in advance as you can. Today is great. Tomorrow, a little bit in advance is even better. Yeah, just let people know that you're not going to be able to do that. And that's it. So my strategy is that you can't change the circumstance, but what you can change is, being a little bit proactive. Let other people know, and your clients. You can let your clients know you're in a some sort of a situation, whatever it is, and you can tell them, either you can pause the coaching, or you can say, hey, I'm not going to be available for a certain period of time. I think being open, honest, and proactive about it it's really good. That's what I do.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know it's it's one thing to live it, it's another thing to have to, relive it, talking about it all the time. I think I learned that last point that you made when we had the hurricane in 2017. So that was kind of my first, as a coach, my first sort of upheaval. And hurricanes are interesting in that you see them coming for a long, they're one of the only natural disasters that, it waves its hand at you for several days beforehand. Is like, I'm here, knock, 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 so they're, not all crisis do you get like this long notice period. I don't know what word to use. And then in our case, it delayed, there was even like a 2-day delay from the original, like projection. And so I had a lot of time to think about, what do I want to tell clients? And my first instinct was just like, well, just keep coaching, just be business as usual, don't bother my clients with this information. But as the storm, it was originally projected as a category 1, which is kind of minor-ish. And then it escalated to a category 4. And I remember thinking, okay, this is probably beyond what I can just pretend isn't happening and keep going business as usual. And so I felt like I was sort of forced to tell my clients. And at this time, I probably had 50 or 60 coaching clients, maybe 6 or 8 phone call, like leadership coaching, and then the rest chat coaching. And I remember it was the very first time I'd ever used the bulk message feature in Coach.me, the feature where you can send a message to all of your clients at the same time. I'd literally never used it. Been coaching for, at that time, 6 or 7 years. But I didn't feel like I had any other way to do it. And so I wrote a fairly lengthy bulk message and kind of said, hey, this is what I think's about to happen. It's a category 4. I don't really know what's on the other side to tell you when I'm going to be available, when I'm not going to be available. It was a very, at the time, I felt super unprofessional message, right? Like, I don't even know, and to your point, you can pause, you can do whatever. And I fully expected everybody to pause or cancel. But things happened and we it was bad. And so we couldn't even get an internet connection. It hit on a Friday, and I don't think we could even get much beyond like a text message till Monday or Tuesday. So there's several days before I could even read the responses, and nobody canceled and nobody paused, and everybody was supportive, and they wanted um they were interested in what was going on and what insights they could glean from it. So I appreciate Lydia's willingness to share what she's learning and growing from her experience. I kind of feel the same way I think my clients felt um, going through it with me, in that there's a lot to learn and share, and knowing a person is different than reading it in the news and so forth too. So there's an intimacy and a realness and a real power in um, kind of these human connections that skip all the layers that normally separate us, between governments and journalists. And, at the end of the day, it's just people on the other side. And so I think coaching can kind of cut through, all of that. And there's a real power there. Um, so I'm curious, anybody else want to kind of add into this conversation?
Sure. I'll kick in. Hey, good morning, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little later than I wanted to be. Remember, it's 7 o'clock on the West Coast, so
You're
I have
doing
found
good. We appreciate you. Yes.
I found I'm an evening or an evening person. Okay, so by obviously no fault of their own, both of my parents passed away, one by surprise and one thankfully in grace, just to end the condition that she was dealing with. But they both did it. One did it the first day of the semester. So I'm a college professor, right? And I teach this class. It's got hundreds of students in it every semester. And so one of them died the first day of the semester, and the other one died the second day in a different semester. And in both of those cases, it was the absolute worst time, right? And they didn't know, and I wouldn't put it on them for that. But for me, it was like, holy cow, nobody else does my job. Nobody else. I mean, there are people who could step in and take it over. I'm not trying to say I'm the most important person ever, but I teach it. I've been teaching it for, at that point, 3 years and 4 years. And so I've got it down by clockwork, and nobody else can just step in and take it over. And if I got it back, it would be pretty wrecked, I think. So I remember, I guess, trying to make it a short story, and a story that I tell my students now, because many of them will go through trauma through the course of a semester. Real life happens. It doesn't stop simply because you're in school. And so I share the story. I tell them that. I share this story with them. And I'm usually very open and honest. I've taught school for, which I consider very close to coaching. I've taught these classes for 10 years, and life happens over those 10 years. So if I'm having a bad day, or if something is happening in my life, I try not to trauma dump, but I also am very open and honest about what you're seeing today. I may not be my top self. I may not be I may not be the ready to go guy that you normally see. My class may be a little short, and I may not be as focused, or may not, there's all different things that happen when you go through traumas. And I came in both of those days. I came in to my coworkers and let them know too. Is there if you see something I'm slipping on, or please let me know. I'm in this headspace and I'm going through these things right now. But I may need help. I may not. But here I am. I'm showing up anyway, and I'm doing my best. So. And I'm able to compartmentalize. It drives my wife bananas. I'm able to compartmentalize. Doesn't mean I still have to deal with the trauma, but I'm able to compartmentalize it well enough in the beginning so that I can still march on. But I pay for it. I will pay for it. I'll come back to it. I have to process it. But I can usually work through those kinds of things, at least in the short term. So. Yeah, I guess that's what my message would be to anybody who be open, be honest, try to avoid, like I said, try to avoid the trauma dumps, but as best as you can. I mean, we're all still human, but I would say be open. And I think I think most people have the experience like you had, Kendra, which is people are understanding, everybody is either going through something right now or has recently gone through something that they can relate to you on with. And they'll usually be very kind about it. That's been my experience so far.
Thank you for sharing.
No, it's great. I was doing a few weeks ago. Now I'm a little bit lost in time, but I was doing the webinar, and ICF webinar have 50 people on the webinar, and right in the middle there was a siren going off, and I'm like, oh my god, it's a 1 hour webinar, and the siren is just going off right in the middle. I'm like, I'm really sorry, I have to pause, and because I'm doing the webinar from the bomb room that's in our apartment. I have to pause. I put the on mute. My whole family and the kids and the dogs are going to come in, and I go back. And while I was off, there was a discussion in the chat, and then when I was back, it was so much support, Roger, just to echo your message, like everybody. And of course it was coaches, like the audience were coaches, so coaches are great. But just in general, everybody were very supportive. They were saying, oh my god, so good you didn't cancel, you coming back. So we have to stay 10 minutes. Then I was back, and they were all so supportive. And they say they never forget this webinar. They say that
Right.
it made a difference, because I came back, like I continued, and they were like inspired by the ability to, something very disruptive going on, and me being able to come back and continue teaching them and just doing this while the whole thing is going on. So they said it was the most kind of impactful thing, and they were very supportive. I didn't hear a single kind of negative word or anything. So totally echo what Kendra and you, Roger, is saying. I think we have to be open and honest, whatever we're going on, and we're trying to show our best. Whatever we're able to provide, we provide, and we're gonna get a lot of support. People are gonna support us, and us being real, I think it's actually better than us trying to be, just some perfect, some ideal thing that you can see. You see this on social media. You see those ideal pictures there, but us being actually real, not the ideal picture, I think it's actually helpful. So people see our struggle, and that despite of the struggle, this is what we're able to produce, or you know, able to deliver, I think this is actually more helpful, more inspiring. So
Well, because folks aren't looking for coaches when life is sunshine and rainbows, right? Usually the whole reason folks are, um, you know, engaging with a coach usually is because there's a challenge in their life. And to your point, sometimes whether the challenge is totally different or not, seeing the way that other folks real close, you know, in again a one-to-one, seeing the way folks navigate it, there's things that we can learn from each other in how to do it, because it sure doesn't seem like the crises are happening any less and less, right? So if we want to grow businesses, if we want to serve people, we've all got to figure out, you know, that balance, to Roger's point, of how do you show up and still do the work that you're most equipped to do, and you know, and find time to process and do those things. All right,
it,
let's
it was funny. Just a quick one. It was funny, you know. I came back from that 10 minutes, and of course, I was anxious and excited, and you know, you could see the comments in the chat, like, breathe, Lydia, breathe, like take a long breath in, breathe out. Like they were giving me all those advices for me to come down and kind of come back, my best self. Like they were, I don't know. It was amazing moment of connection, where they were trying to help me to get back to kind of normal and presenting, and yeah,
that's cool. Miriam,
really real.
If I may add, I think it brings trust. Like people tend to trust you better in the sense that yes, they see you're human, and also they want to be there for you, but they see how you react in a situation of crisis. And if you handles the situation well, they're gonna see, wow, you know, like she's living all this and she's still like committing, she's still present, she's it's someone that, you know, we can trust. So I think it
a good
brings like
word.
an added value.
Yeah, that's a
And
great.
also, it's a situation of crisis. It's not like she's saying, uh, like, I'm not there for something superficial, you know, like I'm doing my hair tomorrow or something ridiculous, you know?
Great point. I like that that trust. I think that's a great word and a great perspective. Because sometimes it can be hard to show up when you know you're going to be imperfect, right? When you know you're, whether because a crisis is looming, or you're in other words, there's the crisis going on now, or you're you're recovering from.
But again, it's something very cultural, you
Mhm.
know, like I know Americans are very like they consider work, they worship work a lot versus if you're going to be in Europe, it's not the same mentality. And I'm in Canada, and for us, we're kind of like in the middle, you know, we're not totally Europeans, we're not totally American in the mindset, and it's not seem bad at all, you know, it's like these things happen, and let's say your kid gets sick, well, it's normal, you don't come into work, you know?
Mm,
So like no one really feels bad about that. So
interesting.
it's very cultural, I find.
Interesting. Great reminder. Great
Yeah.
reminder. All right, so let's the M and the P, marketing and platform. Let's flip it and do platform first, and then spend the time we've got left on marketing ideas. I'll give everybody a minute to kind of think about, you know, we'll do round robin, one thing that's working that you wanna share. But I'll give the platform update. We spent all of May um, transitioning our infrastructure into consolidating it all on AWS stack, which we needed to do. Makes us more robust going forward, and eliminated um, future disrupt things that could have been disruptive to the platform. So we completed all of that. Pedro did amazing. Completed all of that in May. We had a little bit of problem with email, and that I think got fixed towards the end of May. And then when we went to do our coach report for May, which we only run once a month. It's hard to anticipate, but we went to run it on June 1st, and things were not well. And so Pedro and Lidia had to really recreate and manually calculate the coach report. So things were a little bit delayed, only a couple of days. But I just want to acknowledge, and several folks have reached out, for discussion and back and forth. I think it's worked through, but certainly if coaches have, the calculations are pretty transparent. But if there are questions or thoughts, certainly email us at support@coachdotme, and we'll work through it. And the sooner you email us, the better, right? So we're in June for May. If you email us in like September for May, it gets harder to sort out. We really try to do it within the month afterwards. So I do offer that. We still have some work to do on the coach report. We may have a similar problem in July, but we'll get started on the manual sooner. So I would think we would not have a delay in July, even if we haven't fully resolved the problem. And kudos to Lidia and Pedro for the grind of making that work. All right, so let's talk marketing. Anybody want to share something that's working well, or something that you're about to try? What's on your minds from a marketing perspective?
I will start while people are thinking. I'm a strong believer in network, and I call it trust matter, is my own way of calling it, but basically using your own network. I think each of us have a very strong network, people from our ex-employers, people we used to work with, people we studied in different courses, like coaching course, or marketing course, or whatever, even cooking course. So it doesn't matter. Or our kids study, and then we have parents of our kids' classmates. So each of us has a network of, okay, my rough estimate, from 300 to 3,000 people in our network. I think this is the moderate estimate. So these people, we definitely, should utilize that network. And that's what I'm doing. I'm just contacting them one by one, saying, hey, how are you? What's going on? And then just saying, either offering them a call, which is a longer way, but I prefer that because I'm more of a kind of intimate person. And then, on the call, asking them how they are. And I know, Erno, you were one of those who helped me to refine my method, asking them how they are, and then telling them how you are and what you are doing, and being very specific, what you work, who you work, the who, the what, for whom, the triangle, right? Being very specific, who you help with what. And then even if it's not them, which is very high chance, they have their own of 300 to 3,000 people. So imagine, just multiply these numbers. Multiply 300 people to 300 people each of them know, or 3,000 people each of them know. So you have unlimited network of people that, if you do that, is getting those know, like, and trust factor way easier than contacting someone that has no idea who you are and whether they can trust you. Miriam, coming back to your trust point. So that's what I do. That's what I suggest my clients. Just going through the network, connecting with them, even if they don't have immediate, they're not your clients, or they don't know, or they don't think someone is they know can be your client, you stay on top of their mind. This is my goal. This is what I'm doing. So just keeping on what you do on top of their mind. So next time they hear anyone have the problem that you are helping, they're going to refer to you. It's a long way. It's not the quick path, but it's you know, it's a very confident path to get clients.
Great. Okay, Erno, I know marketing's not top of mind for you, but you've got it baked in. So I'm curious, what's one thing you're refining or doing in your world that you think fits in the marketing bucket?
At the moment, I'm not really like, doing a lot. So on the marketing side, I was kind of amazed yesterday. I had a podcast call with somebody I know from the IDG Inner Development Goals environment. I have been speaking with her for a couple of times, and somehow she kind of visited my website before the call. And she said, "Oh, I didn't even know that you did that." And then she told me a story. She says, "And I need help." So, okay, I say, I will send you the Coachdotme link, and then we can start the conversation on that part too. So, yeah, obviously that's the point of how I can improve something to make it more visible for these people. But right now tomorrow I have an event I'm organizing. So I'm very focused on that with my mind. And after this week, it's going to be a lot quieter. So then I will be more focused again on the other stuff. But
Well,
obviously,
I want to challenge you. I think you really do, to Lydia's point. I think your whole life is built around building relationships in a kind of a long-term sustainable way, right? Almost to the point that it doesn't look like what people typically call marketing, but I think I think your story is an exact one. You've invested tons of time with the IDG community and groups to really build that trust and rapport with
yeah. So an example is we do organize with a small team, and I'm really the initiator of that. And also pulling most of the work, when I'm honest, is a monthly event, physical in my neighborhood. And that was last week. We had the 27th of the events that we do. And now a couple of new initiatives have coming from these events. One of them I spoke with yesterday, and probably we're going to do something in our area. There's a big, large fund for companies to start working on sustainability, SDGs. And yeah, we probably start a group there. So it's not really about the coaching part, but it's a networking, finding business through the networking. And tomorrow we're doing this event. I'm again on stage, I'm organizing this event. So I'm very visible in this environment. People know me that I do this. I send emails, I send emails to all these people to invite them to the event so they know my name. So yes, it helps me on a lot of spaces to be in their top of the mind when this topic is on. And I'm very deliberate about it, but not particularly in a way that I'm saying I'm deliberate on getting clients, but more like like Lydia was saying, like building the network and building a strong connection.
Great stuff. Great stuff. All right, I'm just going to go in the order of the boxes. Scott, any insights or ahas recently?
Not anything different per se. I've been using podcasting in going on podcast, and that continues to be a way of getting me out and my message out that I get clients from. I had a host the other day that at the end of the episode says, "Okay, we need to schedule a call. I need you," and it's like I was on his show to talk to his listeners, but he's like, "I need to hire you," and I continue to get folks from that at least get into my ecosystem. I again, like Erno and Lydia, I'll echo the long game mentality of I don't necessarily go on a podcast expecting 10 people to sign up for coaching, but if they go back and listen to my podcast or get on my website or sign up for my email list or whatever, you know, it tends to be the third or fourth or fifth thing that comes across their table that actually causes them to reach out. It's not usually the first thing. So I think recognizing that you're usually in it for the long game is more sustainable and more it's frustrating sometimes as a coach, but it's also at the end of the day, it works better, you know, than the old hard sell, you know, show up, you gotta make a decision, sign up, are you in or you out, you know, kind of thing that some coaches were taught to do that I just, number one, it's not good with my personality. And then number two, I don't think it really works long term. So just building relationships. I mean, that's, I'll ditto Lidia and Erno.
Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, Miriam, anything?
I've been working on my on doing a YouTube video, and I was wondering if any of you paid for an ad, and if it was working, because that's something I was considering to do the YouTube video to upload on Coachdotme, which I haven't done yet. And yeah, so if I do like a coaching offer, then that I would advertise this offer, and how well did it work for you if any of you have done it in the past?
I can start. I do use Facebook ads, but I don't use it to the offer itself. I use it for the lead magnet, so something free, whether it's the PDF or it could be email course or video, recorded video, something. So if you can come up with something valuable, and you can definitely use ads to offer that. And then once they watch this, because you know information is good, but they need to go and implement it, then I think the good step would be either offer a call with you, like a discovery call, an assessment call, diagnostic call, whatever, and then you can offer your coaching package. So definitely could work.
And we've got some courses. We've got some courses on that, Miriam.
Yeah,
that
just reach out, and definitely we can help.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Good ideas. Love it.
The only caution I will give some on ads is if you don't have an offer that's converting already, adding ads brings you more traffic, but doesn't necessarily bring you more conversions. So what I mean by that is make sure you've got something that works and then ads add traffic to that thing that works, as opposed to you have something that doesn't work well and then you add more traffic to it. Well, you're kind of wasting effort, if that makes sense. So assuming that your conversion, you know, to a lead magnet and then on to something else, or that kind of chain works, test that in a smaller scale, make sure it's working pretty well, and then add traffic, as opposed to adding the traffic on the front end. You know, because it just, the ads are to add traffic, not conversions. And I think a lot of times people misunderstand that. They think ads are by themselves more converting, and ads aren't more converting necessarily. They can be, but they're usually not.
Great point. Great point. All right, Roger, we're close to time. Any thoughts, ideas, questions? No pressure.
I think I'll probably make it easy and get us out of here quick. I don't have anything really to add there. I've been heads down working on setting up a summer class at school. So, and I have started up my Coachdotme account again, and I haven't done much with it. So, but I have decided I need to get back. I got to do it. I want to do it.
All right. So a little bit of a challenge. By this time next month, you want to show us your profile?
That'll be easy because I actually have it from before. So, but okay. I do want to tweak it a little bit. Yeah. So maybe some tweaks.
put some extra on it, because I think a tip that Lydia gave us all a couple of times is add a video to it. So if they have
Don't have
something,
that.
yeah, I think that's
and
a great.
Miriam, let's do both. Roger and
know.
Miriam.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's do both. Let's do
Well, I
two.
will do it too. I will do it too. So
Oh,
3.
there you go. 3. There you go.
Well, I've got one. I want to do, we've kicked back off our leadership training and we want to pull together some of the resources that we've done into a resource page for leaders. So I'll commit this time, next time, to share our resource page, kind of one-stop
Whoa.
shop for leader tools. So,
Amazing. Now we have it on record.
Yes.
uh-oh, you're way too excited about that. I love it. I love it. All right, very cool. Thanks everyone for making the time. This is always one of my favorite hours. So good to connect and just get to share with everyone. And thanks everyone for bringing your full self. I think part of the reason these are as valuable as they are is just that everybody really shows up in a vulnerable and meaningful and supportive way. I think there's something really special about that. So. Thanks, everyone, and we'll see everybody again soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.